As the great B.V. Doshi once quoted in his autobiography, Paths Uncharted, I live in paradoxes. So here I am, Karan Anand, welcoming you to our paradox, Mono Architecture, a publication that talks all things design. Mono Architecture, Episode 1 is brought to you by our co-sponsors, Furnistaa, Kitchen Studio, Space Opulence, Glitorium, Prism Glass and Lighteque Concept. I'm looking forward to introducing to you our very first guest, my dear friend and internationally renowned bioarchitect, Areen Attari. Hi Areen.
Hi.
So Nari Gandhi and his stone, Laurie Baker and his brick, Le Corbusier and his cities. Who is Areen Attari?
None of these great people. I think it's really nice of you to even put me in the same bracket as these people, but I'm far away from that, and I think I'm trying to create my own my own space in this architectural field, or however we term it, our profession. And I don't think comparisons make any sense in the long run. They are who they are. They've done some phenomenal work, and they need to be respected and admired for what they do, and we learn from them. And of course, we learn from their good and their the mistakes that they've made, if any, and then just try to be the best version of ourselves. Yeah. So I don't think it's I don't think I can put myself in like one bracket saying Areen is this.
Thank you, Areen. What a wonderful introduction to yourself. Before we dwell into the world of sustainability, bioarchitecture, professional practice, and PYHT, let's travel a little bit back in time and ask you why you chose architecture as a career.
It's the favorite question for everyone. Why architecture? It's the first question all your seniors ask you, when you join architecture. Why architecture? It's ragging. So I like how you decided to start this conversation by ragging me. Honestly, I didn't know what to do with my life. I thought I would do some sort of media related work, and then I thought I was not clear. I think it's too early in someone's life to be able to select what they need to do for the rest of their life. I was 17 or so, and I think in my formative years, my father is an architect, and I especially remember when my brother joined architecture, my elder brother. He came back, with after his first few years of education, 2 years, and he would be like, life is architecture and architecture is life and things like this. And I was like, no, that's not what I want to do in my life. So I'm definitely not doing architecture. And then I had no idea what to do. And because we knew about architecture a bit because of my father, and my mom's father was an architect as well. And then I decided, okay, let's do architecture because it gives you like a platform and a base to then try and do different kinds of things in life. So I decided to take a 5-year rigorous course as a base. I don't know why.
I think that's very reassuring to hear actually, because especially since you come from an architecture background, not having an idea, because when I was introduced to architecture, it was the same. Yeah. I had no idea what I was getting into, and right now there is so much pressure on students who are getting into college about how they have to choose their subject and their course and their curriculum. I think it's nice to hear that even somebody like you who's doing so well in their career did not know what they wanted to do, and you've developed into the designer you are anyway. So
thanks, man. I also think it's important when choosing a course like architecture that you really need to be in love with it, and you need to. It's not like a course where you do it just for the kick of it. You need to be invested. You need to be interested, and then I think you should do it.
In fact, I remember I had met you in our first year when I was in my first year and you were my seniors. And at that point of time when I spoke to you, I felt like Areen Attari, we were also awed by you and your batch, the entire group that was there, and it was so inspiring for us. And had I known that you were in the same boat as me at that point of time, it would have felt nice. But the fact that you were already there, in that position where you were sure of what you were doing at that point was very inspiring to all of us. So we automatically decided that we needed to be the same as you. So it was, I mean, a great joy for us to have you guys as our seniors in college as well. It was a wonderful experience.
Thanks, man. I don't know if that's true fully.
It is.
I don't but I appreciate it.
No, it is very true because everybody that is in my batch, the first name that comes to their mouth is Areen Attari or Shavir. So, I mean, you all have been an inspiration to us, and you all were the ones who, you all were the first people who started a proper studio, and you all were doing architecture. You know, you all were not doing interiors, you all were doing architecture. And for us, that was spellbinding, you know, because we all want to build. We as an architect, the dream is to build, right? And you all were creating structures that we had only read about, you know, we had only studied in books. And when we saw the jali work, the jharoka work, the brick work that you all were doing, the bamboo architecture, sustainability, which we will come to eventually, was very, very inspiring. And you all started very early. I think you had started even before you graduated when you were focusing on all of these topics, right? So it was very inspiring for us. And let's not go into how we were as your juniors. Those, I think those stories should be left out of this interview. But yes.
No, I had a great time with you all as juniors, for sure.
The football matches.
The football match. I mean, all around, right? It was a fun experience all around, and there were some nice characters in the college.
Yeah, I think for us, what really kind of changed our ideation of what architecture was, I think, was Archfest. The festival in Rizvi College of Architecture. That is where we were properly introduced to you all, and you all would make us work.
Yeah.
I still remember we had made that bamboo installation on the ceiling that was there, and we were making paper models for basic design at that point of time. So that kind of, it was like a transformation for us, because we realized that this is what reality is. Right. You know, the way we were asked to do things, there were deadlines, timelines. So I think that having that kind of influence on you as a student is very, very important. So I'm glad that we had a chance to meet that early in our lives.
For sure, likewise.
10 years, 12 years now?
No, now it's like
15, 16 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
2009.
I just look young.
So Areen, was there a turning point or a moment of inspiration in the form of a person or an event that made you realize architecture was your calling, or was it just selected throughout?
No, I'm still wondering whether architecture is my calling. You have to practice and know for sure. I believe it's somewhat of a calling. I mean, I'm extremely passionate about it. I was quite clear as to the kind of work I wanted to do within my college days itself. So I think a bunch of different things could have contributed to that. Some experiences. I think Akhtar Chauhan has has had some influence on that with his philosophy of sustainable humane habitats. And I think the frustration with me was that I wanted to act more than just like talk about it. So I believe that that inspired us, not just me, but a bunch of us, to take that on as a challenge. And then I had some experiences traveling to South Africa, to Bihar, and then working with some really, really inspirational people, and meeting some inspirational people who were working in this realm where basically every design or every piece of let me put it in a different way. Every act of theirs was more towards like creating a more humane habitat, or a more, say, sensitive approach to architecture. So what got ingrained in me was this idea that anything I create should have social relevance, right? So that was my philosophy, and I continue to evolve that philosophy. I don't know if I've stuck true to that. I try, and yeah, I believe I'm still trying to figure out what my true calling is. It's definitely a mix of things, not just one thing.
So your introduction to, say, sustainability, except for of course Akhtar sir's lectures, was it by chance, or did you was it a curated event where you decided you wanted to go and figure what this was out? Because in today's day and age, the exposure to sustainability, I'm not even going to say bioarchitecture, because that is a word that most people don't even understand, unfortunately for us. So was your exposure to sustainability something that was curated, or was it by chance that you came across this and then you decided that this is something that I want to pursue, because it is a very beautiful thought, and it is something that we all need to do, and it's something that's unfortunately for some reason not, especially in our country, not picking up. So not from a commercial point of view, but why was this, like, how did this come about, this event?
Okay, great question, but many different like answers to it, right? So I don't think anything is linear in life. I think there are like a bunch of different experiences that one goes through, and they could be in the form of meeting someone, they could be in the form of physical space, it could be in the form of a teacher, it could be in the form of a parent. So a bunch of different things that one experiences that leads to you making a certain choice or decision, right? So I don't think anything was curated in that sense to, for me to be able to do this. I was quite, there were two things, like when I look back and think about, why I did certain things, I think there were not two, a couple of things, which is also two, a few things, a few things that say help me make my decision or influence my thought process. One is, I think as children, my parents always encouraged this idea of conscious living. So anything that you would do, you would put some thought to it. They also sort of encouraged us to stick true to our values and to follow our hearts and to do what we believe in. So I think that sort of growing up in a space like that encourages you to test, to try, to put yourself out there, to follow your heart, in this form. That gave impetus in a certain way, so that shaped the person I am. Then being in Rizvi College of Architecture under the idea and ideologies of what Akhtar Chawan would bring to the table, which is the sustainable humane habitat. I love the idea of it, but what I always was with the feeling of wanting more. So I realized at some point of time that I wanted to act more than talk. So basically walk the talk. And then I got selected for this program in South Africa called Global Studio. It was being hosted in South Africa at that time, where we were participating in this international studio that I hoped was going to be, before I went, I hoped it was going to be like a lot of hands-on work to create some sort of transformation for people who didn't have the privilege of being, say, in experience of good design. So, I went there with this hope and with this idea that we're gonna do some kick-ass work and it's gonna be great, and it was great. I met some fantastic people. The studio itself had a lot of hands-on application, but I still wanted more. I traveled a bit over there, met this fantastic architect by total chance. His name is Derek Van Heerden. He was running a practice where a lot of his work was in rural Africa. So he was doing, and that time the Football World Cup was just about to be hosted in South Africa. So there was a lot of money coming in for projects associated with water and like schools and football grounds and things like this in rural Africa. So, and he was involved with that, and that inspired me a lot. So I got a chance to work with him for just like 15 days. And then I was like, okay, there's a way to do architecture that has social benefits. And so when I came back, I had to do my internship with, as part of my curriculum. And that time there was still a little flexibility, like you didn't have to finish everything in 5 years or something like this. And I had I come from a fairly privileged background in that sense, where I didn't have any family responsibilities. So I could push the boundaries of what I needed to do immediately. So I took my time. A friend of mine was working in Bihar in a rural area where there was a flood rehabilitation project, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going there. I decided I'm going there, and then I made calls to find out who is doing this. I figured out there's an organization called Hunarshala that's based in Bhuj, and then I managed to visit them, saw their work, and I was like, okay, I decided that I'm working here. Whether they want me or not is secondary. I'm working here. And then so I managed to get in touch with them, and I was like, listen, I came to know about the Bihar project. I spoke to this person on the phone. I said, I'm coming there, just tell me how we can make this work. I want to be involved with this project, that's all. And so they invited me to Bihar. In Bihar, I learned about like bamboo for the first time in my life, and that bamboo could be used as a construction material. And so I would say these sort of experiences led me to have that confidence that, okay, I could also do something like this, and then travel some more, learn some more. I believe that traveling and learning hands-on has helped me a lot and has been my real teacher. And then the question about, say, about India and about the country, it's not picking up. I have a different opinion actually, and my opinion stems from the fact that actually the vernacular architecture in India is phenomenal.
It is.
All right, and like every 200 kilometers you go, you know how this country is, which is that the people change, culture changes, climate changes, the topography, everything changes, right? In every 200 kilometers in this fascinating country. So to speak, the architecture changes as well. The architecture responds to all these things, and which is the true idea of what vernacular architecture is. So what actually exists in India is bioarchitecture already exists in its truest form, which is contextual vernacular architecture. The challenge that we face as society is that we are an aspirational society, and we sort of believe that whatever we have, and I don't know how we have this, it may be a generational trauma, or maybe, you know, so many different challenges that I don't know why it is like this, but my speculation is that we are a society that needs or believes in this idea of aspiration. We're always trying to you know, prove ourselves, and in proving ourselves we are actually learning. More than learning, we are copying what we see, right? So essentially in rural India you copy what you see in the cities in urban India, and in urban India we are copying what we see in Western countries. So essentially what has happened is that there's no dignity afforded to people who live in earthen homes. So if you travel to the heart of India and you talk to people who have earthen homes, now the new trend is that they would have beside it a modern home as well. Yeah, and then if you ask them, where do you like to sleep, the answer is the earthen home. Where do you get more peace, is the earthen home. Which is more climate sensitive, the earthen home. You know, but where do you actually sleep? It would be the new home, because there's no dignity afforded to people who live in an earthen home. It's considered a poor person's home, poor person's material. So earthen cooking ware, which is traditional, which now a lot of urban India is now moving back to, right? They'll set dahi and curd in those earthen sort of ware, or make your rotis on that chula or whatever. But actually this has been happening since forever, and people don't marry into homes, you know, because they're considered not of a certain class, not of a certain dignity. So this is the challenge I think we are facing. I do believe there are a lot of people who are working in this realm of environmentally sensitive architecture, not necessarily calling it bioarchitecture, but it's called different words. And I think that it's growing and growing, and people are becoming more and more aware. It's going to take some time to really take the world by storm, or the country by storm, but it's getting there.
So Areen, you come from a school of thought, you were introduced to a school of thought much earlier in your life regarding all of this. Do you feel like academicians now need to unlearn, because vernacular architecture in a few schools are taught, like for example Rizvi mein, the people who were lucky enough to have interactions with Akhtar Chauhan sir, or if you spoke to Jamshed sir, तभी हमें vernacular architecture का knowledge मिलता था कि this is an arch and this is a brick, and but otherwise if you look at most schools, right, where I have taught or where I am teaching or where you have taught, I'm assuming, the entire idea is not something that is a core concept. You have to take it up as an elective, for example, right?
Exactly.
And again, you said that we are coming from a urban scape where we want to like achieve things. So I am not going to necessarily take sustainability or urban architecture or bioarchitecture as my elective. Forget it being the main subject. So what needs to change? Do academicians need to unlearn? Do parents need to influence their children at an early age? What do you think should be done?
So yeah, I think like we've had, each of us has these different experiences that we have, you know, learned. But I believe it's the individual potential and what you believe and what your values are to then push the boundaries of, you know, your knowledge and where you want to go. And if you look at it, like, yes, the college did give us a base to a certain extent in terms of these experiences, right, of the vernacular. But how many people from the college who have graduated are actually practicing? So it really depends on what motivates you and what inspires you. And I think my outlook is in such a way that, you know, we need to question and unlearn not just about the you know, academicians, and it's about the people who practice, right? And it's about a philosophy of architecture. Now, for example, let's go back to our first question. you named architects who are world renowned, who are, they're known for a certain thing. They also get termed in this idea called starchitecture and starchitects, right?
Yeah.
So I think, like, for me, that's a challenge. That's a question mark. Like, why is the idea of the architect celebrated so much? Yeah, it's great. I love being celebrated. My ego is like, it flies up and reaches the sky. Who doesn't like that? But I think a lot of times we get stuck in this space of like the ego being celebrated more than anything else. And I think if there was a shift I would, say try and create, it would be in this realm, that unlearn things that focus on self, but rather than focus on good living, on community, on what can be built together, as a collective.
I think, Areen, that's a lovely answer. I also feel you're being very modest. I'll give you a reason why before you counter it. See, like for example, when I think of Laurie Baker or when I think of Nari Gandhi, even though they are the architects and they are celebrated for their ego and all of that, I feel like if Laurie Baker did not do his brickwork, right, a lot of people would not have those books, and so it's okay. And when I think about you as Areen Attari, right, I know that you're doing bioarchitecture, I know you're sustainable, and you're creating structures that are related to you. So I feel like it's okay sometimes for you to have that ego, because I feel it will sell your ideologies far more, and we need that. So even though you're being very modest, I think it's good to be celebrated, and you should be proud of that. It's a wonderful achievement.
Thank you. I have so many thoughts on that, because I think like the industry, the challenges of doing what you believe in, they can really test you.
Yes.
And they can really test you mentally, emotionally, physically sometimes, and sometimes even when things need to be celebrated, it's so difficult to actually accept it.
Yes.
Because we are, especially as architects, you are just trained to criticize, right?
Yes.
You enter any space
and you start looking.
And you start like, this is not good, this is not good,
it's
that's
very
not
annoying.
good. Yeah, and you are criticized, and especially if you know that if that work is done by some particular architect, your brain is like, oh, he's not done this properly, or she's not done that properly, or this is off, that line and level is not good, the finishing is not good, right? It's you're trained to constantly be in this space of criticism and self-criticism, self-criticism. So sometimes it's difficult to even like celebrate the
I know
achievements. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
So tell me, Areen, being labeled as a sustainable architect or a bioarchitect, does that hamper your career sometimes, because people approach you only for that particular type of project?
Oh no, I'm so glad.
I'm happy.
Because I labeled, we labeled ourselves, not I labeled myself, we labeled ourselves as bioarchitects. That's put into the company name to say that, look, this is what we're doing, this is the clarity with what we have, and this is what we're going to do. And amazing. I'm so glad that people only approach us for the kind of work that we do. I don't want to do any other kind of work.
That's wonderful, because I think that's very, very inspirational to everybody who's watching, because very often we're too scared to label what we do in the fear of losing something else. So I feel like it's amazing that you've got your niche and you're trying to change the world, and one small step at a time, right?
Yeah.
And while we're talking about your niche and bioarchitecture, let's talk about the wonderful organization that you have started. Put your hands together. Could you tell us a little bit about how this organization or your company came about and what it's all about?
Yeah, so Put Your Hands Together, for me, I'm going to plug my book in over here slightly.
Oh yes, I'm going to, before you continue, Areen Attari is the author of an amazing book called On Friends.
Sorry, I'm not the
author.
Co-author
of this amazing book on friendships, philosophy and bioarchitecture. This book is available on his website. Could you tell us the name of the website?
pyht.org, which is Put Your Hands Together, pyht.
So please get a copy of this on his website.
Thanks.
Nice plug-in,
You don't have the copy, do you?
I do.
Oh, don't lie.
I have it right here. This is my copy now. So please have a read. It'll give you wonderful insight on what sustainability is, and also on conversations, right? Which is as important as the subject itself.
I think the question you asked me about our story it's explained in there a bit. It's a story about friends who have a common ideology and a common value system, and coming together to sort of test the boundaries of what typical architecture is, and more than anything, it's like almost like a way of life. That's why philosophy. It's about our thoughts and efforts towards this idea of what we call bioarchitecture, which is sensitive architecture, contextual architecture, and it's a journey of a lot of fun, to be honest. So it's just like it's a story where we come together, try certain things, and see what happens next.
So tell me, when you started PYHD, put your hands together, was it on a whim, you got a project and then you decided that as a group of friends, let's do this project together? Or was it something that you curated, planned and then developed? Because I think after we graduate, whether it's interior design school or arch, we all want to start a firm, right? And we've had multiple failures. Let's not, I don't know if you remember Karma, the hashtag Karma that you kept making fun of, but that was one of my companies as well, which I did not do particularly well because that started on a whim. So when we talk about PYHD, was it something that just came about generically, or was it something that you planned?
No, it's not something that we planned. We had all these different experiences during our internships. Two people were in Kerala working with earthen architecture with Eugene Pandala. One was in Bangalore, one was in Bombay doing heritage conservation. I was in Bihar. We came back after internships and floated the idea that what if we start working together and doing something on this form. And so it just like evolved, and on a whim actually, on many different whims. Let's put it this way. And I don't think anything was curated in that sense, because our parents couldn't understand what we were doing for a long time, and they questioned.
I think everybody questioned, especially the name.
Everybody
because
questioned.
Nobody knew if it was a movement, was
or
it
a
just
joke.
Or a joke, or what was
Sometimes
going
we
on.
still don't know. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, is this a joke? My company's name is called Put Your Hands Together. Like, what's going on? I think we believed strongly in the name because it was the idea of all of us coming together and doing a lot of hands-on work and involving artisans, skilled and unskilled people to come together to create something. So there are days when I wake up and I'm in love with the name, and there are days when I am like, yeah, this sounds like a joke, but a good joke.
I'm called the goldfish, so I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we've never been people who try to curate anything in the sense of an experience. I think everything, the kind of people we are is like, we believe in something, we do our best to try and make it happen. And along the way, if we fall, if we stumble, we try and take it in our path. Sometimes it's more difficult than others, than other times, but we push and we see where we go.
So Areen, tell me, what does PYHD do? Walk us through some of your projects. Just one project that is really dear to you, and the kind of materials you're using, and why bioarchitecture.
And just about like we use bamboo sometimes. We use lime. Lime is one of my most favorite materials because of its properties of essentially giving back to the environment for many years. So that's the kind of materials and each site requires a certain material that works well for that site.
I'm glad I've used actual lime on my walls because that was the first question you asked me when you came in here. Is this real lime or is it a texture? I did not realize that there was.
There was no judgment. I was just being curious because I wanted.
Even if there was, I'm glad I passed that judgment.
But this is exactly what we should be talking about. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people, when I work, the kind of work that I do, the people ask me questions like, okay, but what about scalability? What about the cities? It's a very one sort of focused question, which is like, okay, how do people use it in the cities? And the reason I asked you this question about these walls at the back, whether they're actual lime, whether it's a coating, whether it's a textured paint, etc., because I want to know how people are applying it now. I want to understand that are people actually willing to use these materials in its authentic form.
When you design spaces, do you do it consciously or is it from your heart?
No, very unconsciously. Shit just shows up.
I'm asking if these decisions are intertwined. Like, is it like, is everything planned, or is it like, like for example in college when we were designing spaces, I would study surrealism and I'd be like, oh, Dali did it, so I want to do it. And we would avoid say Mies van der Rohe or IMP because they did it very consciously.
Correct.
So were these decisions are these decisions truly only from your heart, or do you like think about it? How does it work?
I like to strive to achieve a balance. So when I present my work anywhere, I talk about the idea of firstly learning from sight. So what you learn from sight in terms of context, vernacular, etc. I look at sight and I ask the question to myself, like, what is the sight revealing to me?
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then I try and identify spaces on sight that call me.
Yeah.
Right, and that I'm like, and I try and like, I try and be cool. And I'm like, oh yes, so we can do this here, and we can do that. I genuinely believe it.
That's very poetic.
It is very poetic. Yeah.
And it should be like that.
Yeah.
You remind me of if Howard Roark was a bioarchitect. But yeah, that's amazing that you're talking to the earth and you're kind of trying to. It's beautiful.
I try and do that. I think the more time I spend on site, I genuinely believe that, you asked about my calling. I'm like, the two forms of expression of design that work best for me are when I work with a physical model, when I make a physical model myself, and when I'm on site. Like I feel like those are the two stimulants that make me believe I'm a magician at those times. So I try and get answers from sight, but it has to be balanced with some logic and some sense.
I wish more studios and more students practiced model making, because this is something that we grew up doing. Everything, like we would walk to a faculty and they would be like, model ka hai. They would not have a discussion with us until we had a model, and we would have 3Ds, we would have 2Ds, but it had to be a model, because I think understanding spatial experiences come through model making.
Absolutely. When I work with my hands and create a model, I have total design clarity, actually.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you know where the beam is coming, where the column is coming, how the space is forming, and what interaction the human being is going to have with the material. So, architects, designers, we know about cement, we know about concrete, glass, plaster, POP, but nobody really understands the poetry of rammed earth, adobe, bamboo. It's just something that we'll watch on a YouTube video or we'll read about in a book more often than not in urban cityscapes, unfortunately. So talk to me about this. Tell us about.
It's exactly what we are trying to get them to do, is watch another video and read another book. About the same thing. Look, I think it's the materials that we use firstly are very earthy based, so we try and as a studio we try and work with materials and that are found in its nascent form. So as close to nature as possible, preferably as close to sight as possible. That's one. And now you can use earth in many different ways. It's like it's like cooking, it's like organic food, this idea of like something that's pure in its very being. Try and reduce additives, try and reduce the processing. Try and be honest with it, and then design using that. So earth can be used in the form of cob, where it's one of the most ancient forms of building. You create balls of earth and you stack them up to create a wall. You can use rammed earth, where then you have form work and then you pour earth in in this form work and then you compact it. Parts of the Great Wall of China are built in rammed earth. So there are lots of different technologies that have been there since many years. Baba Adam ka whatever they say,
Baba Adam ke zamane
se aise. So it's been there since my little bit of Hindi. The only Hindi I can speak. I'm from Bandra, man. I can't.
Oh, you're a Bandra. Even I'm a Bandra boy now.
Now, yeah.
Abhi Hindi bhul gaye. Now there's an accent.
Exactly.
Tell me about rammed earth. Okay. So PYHT started from a team of 5 to now Areen Attari. So did your conscience change when you went from a 5-member to 1-member?
So first I'd like to just make one small correction, is that it's not Areen Attari.
Nice.
It's not a one-man show by any means. I have a great team who I believe in strongly, who support me extensively to do all the work that we do together as a studio. So that's one. And then the next thing is that, look, all 5 of us, we are still very close friends. And we want the best for each other, and sometimes that means that you have to create your own pathway and you have to find your own space in the world. And if that means making a hard decision to not work actively together, then that's what it is.
Correct.
We still look out for each other, we care for each other, and we're still extremely, extremely close. It is a huge shift because there was a different kind of fun working. So we worked as 5 people initially for a while, then we went to 4 people for a few years, and then eventually the last 5 or 6 years it was just the 2 of us as the principal architects. And that was a great time as well because we sort of bonded even more, and you have one of your closest friends with you, and work, when it shifts from professional work to suddenly fun and play, that's a great balance to have, right, in your daily life.
Do you miss having partners with you?
I do, I think it'll be fun to explore this journey on my own as well, but I miss it because I miss my friends who are around me, because I believe that we need to have some fun in life.
Yeah, that's true.
And
you always have that backup, right? Like you can make that call in.
More than anything, I had someone to share 50% of the damn stress with.
I thought you were going to say money.
No, I'm happy I don't have to share the money. I miss sharing the stress.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So according to me, architecture is about creation and life, no matter what people may say. And it goes far beyond brick and mortar, right? And it has the power to bring together communities, especially during times of distress. And that's exactly what you guys did in Nepal in 2015 through your Kaule prototype project. So could you walk us through that entire journey, because you brought together a community that went through a lot, right? And saying a lot is an understatement. So what was all of that about?
So again, the first thing I'd have to talk about is the collaborative team that we had.
Lovely.
The Kaule prototype was a collaboration primarily of an architect based in Calcutta called Sharan, and Sharan Lal, and his firm, which is Aleya and Associates. And Aleya and Associates got Manu from Thumb Impression, they do phenomenal work as well, and they are constant collaborators with us. So Manu and us to to join hands to essentially do something with the community. So just a little bit of context: the earthquake hit Nepal. We have a really good friend who is in Nepal, who does some phenomenal architecture using earth and bamboo. His name is Areen Attari, and his company is called Abari. And he's been an inspiration for us since a long time. So we decided to just go and help him. So we reached there, we volunteered in a few camps, in a few transit camps and not refugee camps, a few transit camps and a few labor, I don't even know what the word is. It's not labor camps either. I think it's just transit camps.
Transit camps.
So we helped him in a few transit camps, and we helped in the construction of some homes using earthen technologies, etc. We came back to our respective homes, and then we got a call from a senior of us who we had worked with called Vivek Rawal. He was now consulting for the UN in Nepal, and his friend is Sharan from Calcutta. So Sharan and his group, they used to go trekking often in the mountains, and they used to get these guides who used to come with them, and the guides were all from this village, Kaule. So Sharan had this idea that we will do some sort of training program to help them, because the chief of that village, who used to go on treks with them and their brothers, their chief's father died in the earthquake along with many other people. So essentially Sharan and that group of trekkers, they decided they must do something. So Sharan organized this training program where Manu and me then went down and we interacted with the community to train them how they can use bamboo as a building construction material. So they would use bamboo in different methods and maybe in handicrafts a bit, but not as an architectural construction material. So we did that for just 5-6 days, this program, and then Sharan and the team over there, they decided they wanted to do even more. So they said, no, let's build a prototype with bamboo and with the local materials to create an earthquake resistant home in the mountains. So then he invited us to join hands again. So I think we spent a total of 3 to 4 months in this village. In total nature was phenomenal. You're eating only what is grown around over there because it's quite remote. And it was stunningly beautiful. The people are amazing. They'd gone through a major disaster, but they were still always smiling. So it was a great learning and inspiration for me. You had to trek a bit every day, so I lost some weight as well. So it was fantastic. Added benefit.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, and essentially what we then landed up doing is we landed up training people who didn't have the skill to work with bamboo, and we trained them and we equipped them in a way to now work with bamboo as this construction material.
Lovely.
So for me, that's a big win.
Because I think you, more than just building it for someone, you empowered them with a skill set.
You build capacity.
Yeah, you build capacity. So you created something where they could sustain on them with themselves rather than rely on you.
Exactly.
That's a wonderful concept.
Yeah, and so the design was primarily Sharan's with a lot of Manu and my inputs, and then after we made the whole thing, we then applied to the DUDBC, which is a organization in Nepal, and they were coming up with a booklet of all earthquake-resistant homes that beneficiaries of the government scheme could then use to build an earthquake-resistant home.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we had to prove that this form of architecture using bamboo, using the local stone and earth as construction typologies was earthquake resistant, and then we did those calculations, and then it got approved by the government of Nepal, and it's published in a book.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Where anyone who is a beneficiary of the government scheme can actually build using that typology.
It's basically become a part of the policy.
Exactly, and then we won the Hutco Award in
in
India as well for this project as in rural community infrastructure, something like this. So that was a phenomenal achievement for us.
Yeah, Hutco is huge. So I mean that's brilliant. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, man.
Okay. With a very serious face, if I could put my hands together and then get them dirty, where could I learn? Do you have workshops?
We used to do a lot more workshops.
Okay.
I think workshops were a lot of fun for us, but we've reduced the number of workshops we've done. There are a lot of people across the country doing some phenomenal work and workshops with these technologies. Design Jatra around Bombay and Danu, they do some workshops from time to time. Very, very friendly people, and you get to learn a lot with them. Then there's Gili Mitti in Himachal Pradesh, in Uttarakhand. I've not been there, but I know that she's doing some fantastic work in Uttarakhand. Sorry, Gili Mitti in Uttarakhand. Yeah, and so like this, there are lots of people. Auroville always has workshops on, and Thanal in Kerala. There are lots of places where that people are doing it. So I would just recommend going there. There are people who know the work that they're doing. They love the work that they're doing as much as me, and they're also very, very good.
So when we talk about the context of Nepal, if you had to train the same people to build a standard house as compared to say an earthquake resistant house, how challenging would it be? Or how different would it be?
I don't know, because I would never do that.
Wow. Okay.
It's an earthquake zone. It needs a certain skill set to.
And the houses that were prevalent before the earthquake, were they not earthquake resistant?
I would say some of the vernacular was, but it's really, really difficult. In the earthquakes that hit Nepal, there was like this valley, and there was one earthquake that came here, and then one earthquake that came here. So
everything crumbled.
It's difficult. They had it was not one earthquake; it was like a series of earthquakes. I felt a few earthquakes.
The tremors
while I was there as well.
Yeah. Wow. So what would you do differently with the foundation? Just as for a layman to understand, if I had a standard structure that was there, how was your foundation different from say the foundation that was built earlier?
So I think let's not just in terms of foundation, but the whole structure has to be. You have to understand how an earthquake functions. That itself is difficult, right? But essentially, firstly, always have a structural engineer who is well equipped to be able to give you the correct answers in terms of calculations. Secondly, I think that you need to understand the types of movements that happen in the earth, and I do not know all the specific details of it, but there are these 2 or 3 different types of earthquakes that can happen, and essentially it moves the earth in a certain way, and the idea is that you tie things down to be able to sort of resist the movements that happen. That being said, it is earthquake resistant design is also extremely contextual, and this is an answer that I love giving to some of my clients as well when they ask me about what's so specific about this, why this, etc. In Gujarat, in Kutch particularly, there are these homes called bhungas, which are Banni homes in the Banni region. Those homes typically are round, right? If you look at it in plan, it's round. So it does not have any corner, all right?
Okay.
It's made using all the locally available timber that's found, the sort of wild wood, and then it's a technique called wattle and daub. So you make a timber frame in this circle, and then you put earthen plaster on both sides, something called daub. So it's called wattle and daub, right? Now, along with this round the geometry which is circular, along with this they've also adapted certain techniques where the air compresses and becomes cooler when it comes in the hot desert, right? Similarly, now if you remember, we spoke about the Katkuni system in Himachal Pradesh.
Yes.
So that system is also it's made in the mountains. So two different examples of how vernacular architecture is made far away from each other. Both of these types of architecture are earthquake resistant types of architecture. So when the earthquake hit in Gujarat, it was the circular profile in 2000 something, the big earthquake. These were some of the few houses that did not get affected by it because there were no corners to split from.
And then that becomes a prototype for the future.
It becomes a prototype. So you have to learn from that,
from the
right? So you learn from these things. So similarly in Himachal Pradesh, because there's no mortar and because it's like a pin joint, it can rattle and it can remain in place, even though it's now orthogonal in its geometry. So, earthquake resistance depends on also where you are, what materials you use, how you then adapt to it.
And you have to learn from your mistakes.
You have to learn from mistakes, which I don't know if we all do, but we can all try.
That's lovely. That's great. Okay. So, Areen, let's lighten up the situation. And I'm going to ask you a set of 4 or 5 questions that you have to answer immediately without thinking, okay? So, question number 1. Imagine buildings had their own social media accounts. Which building do you think would have the most followers and what kind of posts would it share?
I think Antella would be fun, to have its own social media account. Yeah. What kind of posts? You don't have to answer.
What kind of posts would it share?
Great posts. I don't know.
This is if there were 2 of you, you would definitely not be winning this gift. Question number 2. If you could redesign any famous city with a completely different style, what would it be and what style would you choose?
Oh, I would, easy question and easy answer. I would redesign Bombay for sure.
Nice.
Because I think we had a great opportunity that we messed up.
Yes.
We had islands, we had beaches, we had rivers cutting through the islands, we had mountains. We still have a forest in the middle of the city.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, exactly. So we could have done some really fun stuff. It would have been a phenomenal city.
Yeah, that's a nice answer. Yeah. Okay. If you could shrink any building down to a miniature size and keep it as a pet, which one would it be? And where would you place it in your home?
I like making models. I think models are pets only in a way, right? So I think any of my buildings I already have those as pets.
Okay. So any of your structures. Yeah. And we were talking about Areen Attari being modest. Okay, if you were a fly on the wall in an architect's house, who would this architect be and what do you think you would hear?
Can it be architecture studio?
Sure.
Yeah. I would like to be a fly on the wall in one of these big studios doing all this commercial work.
Oh yeah.
Try and without naming them, there are quite a few.
Yeah.
But just learn from them, see how they do things differently, maybe.
Yeah. Discuss how they make the BOQs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Pablo agrees.
Yeah, Pablo agrees. Yeah. Okay. If you could choose one profession that was not architecture and not high paying, what would that profession be?
Not high paying.
Yeah, we had those dreams as a kid, I wanted to be a bus conductor.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Yeah.
So what
I just wanted to do ting ting, honestly.
Yeah, same here.
I like that.
Yeah.
That is No, I would have. I love cricket and football. I would have loved to.
That's very high paying.
Become a.
That's very high paying.
Yeah, but I'm not so skilled, so I would not have got paid.
Yeah, you would have not been the best cricketer. You would have been the captain of your APL team. No offense.
Not even captain. Dude, Furnistaa is my team. You can't put this in.
They'll withdraw their funds to me.
No, I like Furnistaa. I like Ruben Bhai.
So in this next segment, I'm gonna say a word and you have to reply with another word without thinking about it. Unlike the previous segment where you were supposed to answer quickly. Okay?
Yeah.
So the first word is minimalism.
Yes.
What?
Yes, do minimalism. Yes.
You're the worst at these games. Okay.
Give me something easier. What is
Okay.
minimalism?
Okay.
Yeah, you said I'll start with something else, and then you literally started with his
The
suggestion.
next word is pillow,
Sleep,
glass,
drink,
leaf,
tree,
shoe,
sock,
sock,
socks.
cat,
My favorites.
brutalism,
No idea.
tadawando.
Great architect. Boxer.
Really?
Yeah, he's not an architect by
We
profession.
can
he's
answer
boxer.
only in one word. Oops. That's why I was like,
Really was your word?
earrings,
I love them.
beard,
Want it back.
Matter Studio,
Who? This is what he did to me on the phone.
PYHT, who? The last goldfish.
Avalanche.
At least it's not below average like some of my reviews. Okay. Let's romanticize the situation a little bit. Imagine a young Areen Attari sitting across from the table. What advice would you give to him?
It's a good question. I am usually a believer that whatever choices I've made are the right choices, and that I don't have any regrets. Lots of things to learn from. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I'd just say continue to follow what you believe in, follow your heart, and do your best.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Areen. It was lovely having you here. It was lovely having you. It was lovely.
You're sincere.
So even though you were not deserving of the gift hamper, our co-sponsors have prepared a beautiful gift hamper for you. So here it is, Areen.
Thank you so
go.
much. Thank you, Karan.
My
It was
pleasure.
truly enjoyable to win this gift hamper, like all the other guests on Coffee with Karan.
It was lovely having you here, and thank you for your insight. I'm sure our audience is going to love watching this video and sharing their comments.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being with us for the entirety of this episode. I hope you had fun and learned some things as well. Stay tuned for episode 2 of Mono Architecture, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Mono Architecture episode 1 is brought to you by our co-sponsors Furnistaa, Kitchen Studio, Space Opulence, Glitorium, Prism Glass and Lighteque Concept. Okay.